Did you know as a young boy the depth of her work that she was doing?
I knew a fair bit of it, mainly because she'd come back with all these stories and full of excitement and just passion for what she'd been doing.
The memory of Princess Diana has never truly faded from Britain's heart. Decades after her tragic death, people still speak her name with admiration, affection, and an overwhelming sense of loss. Every anniversary brings renewed reflection, but this year felt different. July 1st marked what would have been Diana's 65th birthday, a milestone she never had the chance to reach. Many expected the royal family to acknowledge the occasion with an official statement or a carefully planned tribute. Royal watchers anticipated the usual ceremonial gestures, while newspapers speculated about how the palace might commemorate one of the most beloved figures in modern history. Instead, something entirely unexpected happened. There were no elaborate ceremonies, no emotional speeches from palace balconies, no grand displays designed to dominate headlines. What Prince William chose to do was remarkably simple, and because of that, it became infinitely more powerful. Without seeking publicity or attention, the Prince of Wales quietly reminded Britain that his mother's greatest legacy was never about royal titles, glamorous appearances, or public popularity. It was about compassion. It was about kindness. And above all, it was about seeing people who too often go unnoticed. As details of William's actions gradually emerged, millions across Britain found themselves deeply moved. Social media filled with emotional reactions, newspapers praised the quiet dignity of his tribute, and countless people remarked that this was exactly the sort of gesture Diana herself would have appreciated. Rather than celebrating the memory of a princess, William chose to continue the work of a mother. And that simple decision spoke louder than any official ceremony ever could. For nearly 30 years, Diana's story has remained one of the most remarkable chapters in modern royal history. She wasn't remembered simply because she was Princess of Wales. She became known around the world because she transformed the public image of the monarchy. She hugged children without hesitation. She comforted hospital patients when others kept their distance. She walked through active minefields to highlight humanitarian crises. She visited homeless shelters, children's hospitals, and charities not because protocol demanded it, but because she genuinely cared. Those moments weren't carefully staged performances. They reflected who Diana truly was. As a young prince, William witnessed all of this firsthand. Unlike previous generations of royals, William and his younger brother Harry weren't raised entirely behind palace walls. Diana deliberately exposed her sons to realities that many members of the royal family had rarely experienced. She brought them to homeless shelters. She introduced them to people struggling with poverty. She wanted them to understand that privilege carried responsibility. Years later, William would admit that those childhood experiences completely changed the way he viewed the world. The lessons never left him. And on what would have been Diana's 65th birthday, those lessons quietly came back into focus. Instead of attending glamorous receptions or allowing photographers to capture carefully choreographed moments, William devoted his attention to one cause that remained closest to his mother's heart: homelessness. His commitment through the Homewards Initiative has become one of the defining projects of his public life. But during this particularly emotional week, the work carried far greater meaning. Reports revealed that William personally joined volunteers preparing homes for families about to begin new chapters in their lives. There was nothing ceremonial about the visit. He wasn't simply shaking hands before leaving after a brief appearance. He rolled up his sleeves. He carried furniture. He helped unpack household essentials. He assisted volunteers arranging supplies inside homes that would soon provide safety and stability for vulnerable families. Those present described the atmosphere as genuine and relaxed. William focused entirely on the people around him rather than cameras. For many observers, it instantly reminded them of Diana herself. She had always believed that meaningful change happened through personal connection, not publicity. The symbolism couldn't have been clearer. Rather than delivering emotional speeches about his mother, William demonstrated her values through action. That distinction mattered. Anyone can make a speech. Living those principles every day requires something much greater. As photographs and reports of William's visit circulated, commentators began drawing comparisons between mother and son. Many noted that Diana had once taken William to homelessness charities when he was still a young child. Those visits left a permanent impression. William has spoken openly about remembering conversations his mother had with him during those visits. She explained that every person deserved dignity. She taught him that circumstances could change anyone's life. Most importantly, she encouraged empathy instead of judgment. Those lessons became part of William's character. Now, decades later, they continue shaping the future king. But perhaps the most touching aspect of this birthday tribute wasn't the charitable work itself. It was what happened away from public view. While newspapers focused on William's official engagements, another tribute was unfolding inside his own family. Unlike millions around the world, William's children never had the opportunity to know Princess Diana. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis were born many years after her death. Yet William has made it one of his personal missions to ensure they still know their grandmother. Not as a historical figure, not as a famous princess, but as a loving mother whose kindness changed countless lives. According to those familiar with the family, William regularly shares personal memories with his children. He tells stories from his own childhood. He shows them family photographs. He explains the values Diana believed in. Rather than allowing documentaries or headlines to define her legacy, he wants his children to hear those memories directly from someone who knew her best. That approach has become increasingly meaningful as the children grow older. Naturally curious, they have begun asking more questions. Who was Grandma Diana? Why do so many people still love her? Why does Britain continue remembering her after all these years? William reportedly welcomes every one of those conversations. Each question gives him another opportunity to introduce his children to the woman who shaped his own life. And perhaps no one has shown greater curiosity than Princess Charlotte. Charlotte shares not only Diana's family connection, but also one of the most recognizable names within the royal family. Her full name includes Elizabeth Diana, a tribute carefully chosen by William and Catherine. As Charlotte has matured, reports suggest she has become increasingly interested in learning about the grandmother whose name she proudly carries. William has responded in the most personal way possible. Instead of discussing royal history, he tells stories filled with warmth. Stories about Diana's laughter, her sense of humor, her love for practical jokes, her compassion toward strangers, her devotion to her sons. In doing so, William isn't asking Charlotte to inherit grief. He's passing down values. He's ensuring that kindness becomes part of another generation. And that, many believe, may ultimately become Diana's greatest legacy, not monuments or official ceremonies, but the character of those she inspired. Little did anyone realize, however, that William's quiet family tribute would soon remind the public of one of the most heartbreaking promises ever made between a son and his mother, a promise spoken during Diana's darkest days, long before tragedy struck, and one that continues to move royal historians even today. For many people, Prince William's quiet tribute carried an even deeper emotional meaning because it reminded them of a promise made nearly 30 years ago, a promise spoken by a heartbroken teenage boy who wanted nothing more than to ease his mother's pain. It was a moment that has become one of the most touching stories ever shared about Princess Diana. In the final years of her life, Diana experienced enormous personal change. Following the end of her marriage, she faced a future unlike anything she had imagined. While she remained one of the world's most recognizable women, life inside the royal family had changed dramatically. Those close to her often described this period as emotionally challenging. Despite continuing her humanitarian work with remarkable determination, Diana privately struggled with the reality that many aspects of her former royal life had been left behind. William was still only a teenager. Yet even at that young age, he noticed the sadness his mother tried so hard to hide. According to accounts shared over the years, William once tried to comfort Diana with words that reflected the innocence and devotion of a loving son. He reportedly told her that one day, when he became king, he would make everything right. Whether remembered exactly as spoken or softened through time, the story has endured because it reveals something far greater than royal protocol. It reveals the extraordinary bond between a mother and her eldest son. No prince. No future king. Simply a boy trying to protect the person he loved most. Fate, however, had other plans. Only months later, the world was stunned by the tragic accident in Paris that claimed Diana's life at just 36 years old. The images that followed became etched into history forever. Millions watched as a grieving nation gathered outside palaces with mountains of flowers stretching farther than anyone could imagine. Church bells echoed across Britain. Television broadcasts united audiences across continents. And in one of the most unforgettable moments of the 20th century, two young princes walked behind their mother's coffin before a watching world. It remains an image that still moves people decades later. William has rarely spoken in detail about that day. When he has, his comments have always reflected remarkable restraint. Rather than allowing grief to define his public life, he gradually transformed it into purpose. Instead of becoming consumed by loss, he began focusing on the values his mother had spent years teaching him: compassion, empathy, service, respect for every individual, regardless of status. Those principles gradually became the foundation of his own approach to royal duty. Today, many observers believe William has fulfilled that childhood promise, not by restoring titles or rewriting history, but by preserving something infinitely more valuable: Diana's legacy. Every homelessness initiative he supports, every conversation with struggling families, every charitable partnership focused on improving lives. Each reflects lessons first learned from his mother. That is precisely why his tribute on Diana's 65th birthday resonated so deeply. It wasn't nostalgic. It wasn't performative. It wasn't designed to create dramatic headlines. It simply continued the work Diana herself had started decades earlier. Perhaps even more moving is the way William has chosen to involve the next generation. Rather than shielding George, Charlotte, and Louis from difficult conversations about family history, he has encouraged them to understand who Diana truly was. Not simply as Britain's famous people's princess, but as someone who believed kindness should never depend on someone's title, wealth, or social position. Reports suggest family conversations often include stories about Diana's sense of humor, her warmth, and the way she always made people feel valued. William wants his children to know that compassion isn't something reserved for public appearances. It's something practiced every day. Many royal commentators have noted how naturally those values already appear within William's own family life. Whether greeting members of the public, visiting charities, or interacting with children during official engagements, William often displays the same approachable style that once made Diana so beloved. While personalities inevitably differ, the underlying philosophy remains strikingly familiar. Service through humanity. Connection before ceremony. Listening before speaking. These qualities have increasingly defined William's role as Prince of Wales and future king. Yet Diana's influence extends far beyond William alone. Around the world, charities she supported continue their work. Campaigns she helped popularize remain active. Medical organizations still remember the impact she had on reducing stigma surrounding illnesses that many once feared discussing openly. Humanitarian groups continue referencing her courage in bringing attention to issues others overlooked. Her influence survives because it changed lives, not merely headlines. That is why birthdays like this continue carrying such emotional weight. People don't simply remember how Diana died. They remember how she lived. They imagine the grandmother she never had the chance to become. They wonder how proudly she would have watched William grow into a devoted father. How warmly she might have welcomed Catherine into the family. How much joy she would have found watching George, Charlotte, and Louis grow. Those are moments history can never return. But through William's determination, something equally meaningful has survived. Her example. In many ways, Diana's greatest memorial isn't a statue, a portrait, or an anniversary ceremony. It exists in every life improved by the compassion she inspired. It lives in charities continuing their work. It lives in families finding hope through initiatives like Homewards. It lives in grandchildren learning about a grandmother they never met. Most importantly, it lives in a future king who continues choosing empathy over spectacle. As Britain reflected on what would have been Diana's 65th birthday, one truth became impossible to ignore. The people's princess may be gone, but the ideals she championed continue shaping the monarchy through those who loved her most. And perhaps that was Prince William's message all along. Real tributes are not measured by speeches, ceremonies, or headlines. They are measured by actions. They are measured by lives changed. And they are measured by the quiet determination to carry someone else's kindness into the future. Nearly 3 decades after saying goodbye to his mother, William appears to be doing exactly that. Not because royal tradition demands it, but because a son's love never truly fades. If Diana could have witnessed the man William has become, the father he is, the causes he champions, and the values he continues to protect, many believe she would have recognized something beautifully familiar. Her greatest legacy was never confined to history. It walks beside the future King of Britain every single day. And perhaps that is why this birthday touched the hearts of millions across the nation. Not because it reminded people of what they lost, but because it reminded them that genuine compassion never disappears. It simply finds new hands to carry it forward. What are your thoughts on Prince William's heartfelt tribute? Do you believe honoring Princess Diana through acts of service is the most meaningful way to preserve her legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest royal updates and exclusive stories.